Hello, welcome back to IDAGIO Live for our 6th episode of the workshop on the Bach Cello Suites. Today the Gigue from the first suite. But today I have again to do a follow-up from last time because I received a very interesting email or text from Jean-Guihen Queyras, who is following this series. And I would like to read this to you. And after we go at this, after we look at the Gigue, and after we talk about bowings, today our guest will be Emmanuel André, Artistic Director of the Philharmonie of Paris. So, Jean-Guihen Queyras sent me yesterday this very interesting text about Saturday's workshop. I'm translating live, so I will do my best. About Menuet 2 of the first suite, so the possibility to play an E-flat and not E-natural in bar 3. What do you think about this possibility? This E-flat is present in some manuscripts because, as you might know, we have different sources for the suites. The main one is Anna Magdalena, where in this case this E-flat is not written, but there are other sources that we find interesting. The other argument that Jean-Guihen Queyras is mentioning, and which I think is a very good argument, he says there is this Bécard, this E-natural specified 4 bars later, which could suggest that 4 bars before, on bar 3, we do play an E-flat. Now I will play it as Jean-Guihen Queyras suggests or asks. Which is not what I played in the workshop last time, and it is not also what I play usually. And the reason for this is simply that Anna Bijlsma has been, for the Bach suites, he has been my main inspiration. He is the one who enabled me to find my voice and my way in the Bach suites. And Anna was, I asked him about this place, and he said E-natural. E-natural because it is not the E-flat is not in the key, so it is E-natural. Nevertheless, I absolutely want to say that this is something that will never be a definitive answer, and I think the E-flat is also very beautiful, actually. Which gives me the possibility to bring a question which is almost a bit maybe meant with humor or a bit provocative, a question that I received from Victor Sandu, also on Instagram, and his question was, were the suites actually maybe composed by Anna Magdalena? So, and I think, of course, I'm not for this kind of question it would be better to ask, I don't know, you know, Mr. Wolf, who is the great authority on Bach, you know, or some other fantastic musicologist. But I do think that we all agree that what we have is a copy by Anna Magdalena, but that the suites were composed by Johann Sebastian. Because all indicates in the way of the compositions that it is from his hands. A second question that Jean-Guihen Queyras was asking in his message was this. It was following the discussion with Amandine Bayer that we had last time, and Amandine was talking about modern setting, about gut strings. We were talking about this. It was very nice. And Jean-Guihen Queyras was asking whether maybe the fact, even if you have a modern setting on your cello and a modern bow, to not use the end pin, to play without end pin, wouldn't that already be a step towards better articulation in this music? What are your experiences in this situation? And thank you very much for this question. indeed, I have played the suites quite often without end pin, and I encourage my students to always at least make the experience, even if later they say, oh no, I'm more comfortable with the end pin. And the reason for that, and I decided today to come with my cello without end pin, is that when you play without end pin and you put your cello on your lower legs like this, there are indeed two advantages. One is that the center of gravity is lower, and therefore some of the things that are complicated in the bow technique when we play Bach get actually more natural, because the bow arm can more easily and more naturally gravitate around this lower center of gravity. You know, so some things become much easier. So I do agree with you, dear Josquin, about this. And I would say, as Amandine put it last time in a very nice way, she said, just experiment, just try, you know. And the other advantage is that the cello that way is in a way much more flexible, and it can move with you. You have more flexibility to swing with the music. So experiment, try with, try without, and even if in the end you play with your end pin, I think you will have, in a very natural way, learn some things by playing without the end pin. So now let's go to our Gigue of the first suite. And I have put as a title, Bar Structures as a Dance Map. So the reason is this. You remember that now in many of the workshops that we have done, that the swing of the music, to remember these are dances, or these are work where Bach wanted to have the dance as a structure. And it is not, it's not just an intellectual structure, it's really a physiological one. That's what helps you to find the right way to swing in this music. So remember when we talked about the sarabande, where you take a first downbeat, and from this downbeat you feel the attraction to the second beat. Yeah, and here the reason I talked about bar structures is that our swing is going to be not within the bar, but over several bars, even the basic swing of it. So we are here in 6/8, and clearly we go to the second bar, and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So now I'm sitting, so it's difficult. I could stand up and demonstrate for you. And 1, 2 and 1, 2, 1, 2 and 1, 2. And the reason I'm ready to make a fool of myself and dance is that I really encourage you to listen to what Amandine said on Saturday. Sing and dance this music, and then many things you do on the cello will become much easier. And in this case, so we have this two-bar structure where the second one is more important. And this is our basic groove. Yeah, and then of course, from there, Bach will construct by changing and by making longer phrases, of course. But where is our home? How is this piece starting, and what is the first thing? A fantastic example we will have later is the bourrée of the fourth suite, where we have this, we need at the beginning to feel, and once you have this, then you will see how Bach starts playing with it and making a very interesting story. About this Gigue, the next thing I want to mention, once you have this nice groove, are that we have something that we don't have in the other movements, except for the Menuet 2, which was in Minore, which we have 2 episodes, and quite important ones considering the small size of this jig. We have 2 episodes in minore, as it is a little bit like if Bach wanted to suggest that now we are preparing ourselves for the second suite, which is going to be in D minor. So after we'll and now the last 4 bars, or 3 bars at least, and you see how he just flirts a little bit with the minore, and just the last bar he releases that. And he will do this, as you know, later in the second half. So we go to G minor, which again is a key we had only explored in the Minuet 2. But in all 4 first movements, we never went to this key, to both of these minor keys. And of course, after this second minor episode, Bach goes back to major. And what does he do? As always, and as we talked about in the prelude, an ascension to finish in a very positive note. So our bass line, so we finish, of course, upward and in a very positive way. The last little thing I want to mention about the jig specifically before we go into the subject, into the minefield of bowings, is in the second half there is a very lovely passage where Bach plays, he really plays around with counterpoint. So you remember that we talked about this fact that we go sometimes from one voice to the other, and there is really a dialogue that starts. Well, here he does it in a very playful way. And which is, by the way, when you have such a clear 2 voices, playing with each other like 2 cats or something, when you do your repeat, I suggest that this is probably a passage where you will want to have, in the first time you play, 1 cat is predominant, and then the second time you play maybe the other one. Maybe the second time it could be so I don't know how much the dynamic comes through the distance, but yeah, you can explore with that. So, and now, because it's been a few episodes, I was saying, at some point we will have to talk about bowings, and it is not by chance that I received many questions from you about the bowing issue, because we all face it at one moment or the other, we cellists. So let me just quickly read through a few questions I received about bowings. And I said it's a minefield because again, like about this E flat in the Minuet 2, there is no right answer. I think there is choices, and I think everyone, which makes it very exciting and very interesting, I find, because each one of us has no choice but to try to go on the thin line between authenticity, the bowings of Anna Magdalena as we can read them, because some of them are not clear, and so on, So, the questions first, from Matteo Celli from Ecuador and Nirina. So I put the questions a bit together. How do you choose bowings? Do you allow yourself to differ from Anna Magdalena? And if so, how? Do you always play the same bowing, or do you sometimes vary? And Anna Magdalena's bowings are quite inconsistent. Do you think they should be made more logical and follow a pattern, or like Anna Bijlsma did, be very free by following those inconsistencies that are in the manuscript, or somewhere in between? So these were questions, and the last question is by Lorenz Nilas also on Instagram, did Bach intend to vary bowings on the same pattern? So we have the same pattern coming several times. Should we, once we have made a decision about the bowing, should we adapt it to when this pattern is coming? So here is my, the way I go at it. I will again talk about Arno Bijlsma, because, as I said before, he was really my main inspiration and is for going to Bach. And of course, the first thing we know about Arno Bijlsma bowings is that at the end of his life, he wrote all these books where he went into, with a laser glasses and with a very microscope to try and apply in a very strict way the bowings of Anna Magdalena, even though, for those of you who look at the manuscript, it is very often difficult to actually make sense of them. Is this for 3 notes? Is this for 2 notes? Is this for 4 notes? So this is one thing. On the other hand, one thing that Arno Bijlsma taught me was this. When you do a slur, when you put several notes together in the bow, well, in the Baroque time, it's definitely a tool for expression. So it's not, you don't put 2 notes in the same bowing just like that. If you do, it's because you want to put some emphasis. So instead of doing you put a slur when you want to give a bit more substance in the sound, or when you want to flow towards the next note. Yeah. So he even suggested to me and to the students who were at this masterclass, take, I don't know, like Allemande of the first suite, play it entirely without any slurs. Just play it like this. Choose what your phrasing is, you know, without any slurs. And then see where you want to, here I want these 3 notes to be really together and to have more expressivity. And for me, from these 2 things that Arno Bijlsma taught us, the scrutiny in looking in the manuscript and using the bowing as a mean for phrasing, for me, this second aspect, using the bowing as to make sure that my bowing is something that will help my phrasing and my storytelling, this is my priority. At the same time, I try to get as much as possible inspired by what Anna Magdalena wrote. To put it in other words, in other terms yet, and to finish maybe for now on this, and I'm sure we'll have other opportunities to talk about bowings. But what I tell my students, to put it together, I tell them, if you build, if you have a project for a new house, first you build the walls and the roof, then you start thinking about furniture. And in this metaphor, for me, the walls and the roof are the harmonic patterns, the phrases, how are they constructed. I look at the score, how is this music, what is the story harmonically and melodically, the motifs, and I sing it, I dance it, and then I bring in the furniture, I bring in the bowings. They will, make the place, they will make a big difference. But you can only make the right decisions about them once you know what you want to say. They should be at the service of the story you want to tell. Please feel free to react to what I said. I know that this doesn't have to be something that everybody agrees with, and I find this debate very interesting. And maybe even on this coming Saturday, the next episode, Stephen Isolis will be my guest, and I'm sure he will have very strong opinions about this, which I look very much forward to. But for now, our guest of the day, Emmanuel André. Cher Emmanuel, dear Emmanuel, are you there?
I am, of course.
Yes. Hello, dear Emmanuel.
Can you see me?
Yes, I see you. I will just change the angle of my camera. Yeah, here. Yes, wonderful. I can see you. Welcome, dear Emmanuel, and thank you for taking the time to be with us and
My pleasure.
to tell us about your Bach suites. So, for those out there who don't know you yet, you are the artistic director of the Philharmonie in Paris. And I thought it would be so interesting for us in the cello world and in the Bach suites world to hear how you look at them. Well, anyway, from a personal point of view, but also would be interesting for us in the Philharmonie in Paris. You have halls of different sizes, and in your repertoire, it's so incredible. It's there is basically everything from Renaissance or maybe before to contemporary music, and of course from the smallest to the biggest ensemble. So how do these suites in particular, how does a solo recital, but particularly these suites, find a place in your programming, and in which way?
Thank you for asking, Jean-Guihen, and bravo, because what you do with the suites through internet is wonderful, because that's clear that you never stop thinking, asking, asking something new about this music, because you have an endless discussion about the possibility of that music. And in a way, when I try to program and to invite some artists, I try to ask new questions about the existing masterpieces. That means, as the others, I could invite you to perform the Sixth Suite, or to have great artists with a great audience, and to make money, to be happy. It was a life before. But probably we all already thought that it was useful to connect music, the masterpiece, to society. And when we try to do that, it's very simple, it's very easy. You just ask the question, what sense make this music in our time? And the answer is not today the same that 10 years ago, that 20 years ago. And I need the performers for that. I mean, I need the musicians for that. And I also need their ideas. That's why, dear Jean-Guihen, we used you a few times for the Bach suite. I remember it was, I think, a long time ago, in 2006.
Yes.
You did the echoes of Bach with some a kind of modern preludes to the Bach music by Fedele, Courtag, Nodaira, Gilbert. This experience for me was the real experience, because I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, that you didn't stop between the modern music and Bach. You just associated the two universes in a way that was a way to show that Bach was modern. And that's the kind of question Bach was asking himself, looking for a polyphony with a melodic instrument, could be exactly the same question interesting some modern composers, like the living composers I mentioned before. But on the other hand, you integrate the heritage of the Baroque attitude, I mean the period instrument. So you do something very strange in the same kind of experience. You are both modern and open to history of music. So for me, it was really something very, very strong. And I still remember that experience. Another experience was with Anne-Theresa de Kersmaker. Of course, I think you had the chance, and I think it's not a chance to work with her, but really to have this kind of experience. For me, it was a sensational a magnificent way of showing how gesture and music can be connected together, but also space, symbol, empty space, abstraction, some concepts. Sometimes you can hear, you can feel, but you don't see them. With dance, you could see them. I mean, I could see gesture and your music and Bach music in the same time. When you looked at the stage from above, from the ceiling, I had that chance. I saw you in the middle with empty space and dancers around you, and it was a fantastic view on your experience. So, sorry for the long answer. I told you that I speak a lot, but it's just because I try not to. My job is not to make concerts, to present concerts, but to dream of experience with some people like you, and also with the people who come to the Philharmonie. They don't want to hear and to listen to the Sixth Suite as usual. They want to learn and to feel something different, something from our time, a new experience, but connected to the true language. I mean, not to have a kind of fantasy disconnected from history, from a right attitude of the musician, but connected to the devotion of a musician to a masterpiece. And in every genre of music, I try to find this kind of challenge for orchestral music with some conductors, solo, but also electro, jazz, ancient music. We all feel how we can be connected and to use some questions in some different fields. The questions, for example, of polyphony, we feel with the Sixth Suite of Bach music, is very connected to Steve Reich music. You also have a kind of polyphony. In some electro music, you have a lot of polyphony. In the Bruckner Symphony, of course, you have polyphony. But how can you make, how can you write a polyphonic music? Can you write it just with one line? Or what kind of one line do you have to write to do it? Probably Fieldglass tried to do it sometimes, but you're very lucky, I have to say, as a cellist, to have your Sixth Suite, because I think you're lucky for many reasons. The music is incredible, but the story of playing that music is also incredible. Since Casals, since Rostro, since Yo-Yo, can you imagine that?
Yeah. Excuse me to interrupt you, Amanda. Just to say in between that Yo-Yo Ma just played again the Sixth Suite last night, and in a special tribute to the victims of the coronavirus. So.
Yeah. And this story, since Casals, is probably very special, because you feel that every great artist try to connect this Bach music to life. I'm not sure in the violin field, in the violin world, there's the same kind of dream. I'm not sure. I'm flutist, and I still wait for the iconic flutist connecting the Bach partita to our life. I mean, there's no experience like this, or not enough, or I don't know them perhaps. It's just music. It's important. It's wonderful music. But how can you make something strong with your with outside? You see what I mean? Probably Rostropovich was the most iconic experience for that, with the fall of the wall, of the Berlin Wall. It was a symbol of freedom, but also a tribute to the victims of war, of communism. It was, from his side, probably a way to feel that one day he can come back to Russia, because for him he left, so he couldn't come back. But after the fall of the Berlin Wall, I think he felt, and he said that it was now possible to come back and to join the two parts of his life, West and East. And then I'm asking myself, during the Corona time, during the Afghanistan time, I see some cellists playing in the ruins, playing in the street. Remember also Gauthier Capuçon playing close to Notre Dame during the fire or just after. Okay, sometimes you feel good with this kind of experience, sometimes not so much. But the story of the cellist is very special. I don't have any explanations for that. Probably my feeling is that cellists, more than the violinists, ask something because they have to prove something, more than the violinist. They are less established. They are perhaps less, they have less attention by the romantic history of music. And they want to demonstrate, to give a statement, to show that they exist. And they are probably more creative. That's my feeling.
Well, maybe there is 2 days ago, Amandine was the guest for this workshop, and she had another explanation, which was that in the partitas and even more in the sonatas, it is they have to work so hard. And already playing the sixth suite is something we do have. It is a challenge for a cellist, but it's true that the partita and the sonatas are so full of chords all the time, and it's so much work that maybe they don't have as much time for spirituality as we do in the suites. I wanted to rebound on what you said, which I think is a key, and I would love to just add my a little bit, push a little bit further this for our viewers, that basically, you know, this experience that I made thanks to you and to a few other concert halls that participated in the project, in this ECHO project where we commissioned from 6 composers. I wanted to share with the audience an experience that I had through my experience at the Ensemble Intercontemporain, because I haven't mentioned it a lot in this workshop, but actually 2 things were decisive in enabling me to find my way in this world of the cello suites, where at first you are so impressed by all the great masters, you know, but the ones of the past and the ones that are still alive, and you know, and why should I play the Bach suites, you know, and the 2 things were meeting Anna Belsma, which I've mentioned a lot, and working on a daily basis with living composers for about 10 years when I was in Intercontemporain, and having the possibility to have the incarnation of what I have on a piece of paper, you know, at the contrary to Bach, where we have to create again this incarnation through the playing. And that's what probably the people, the Baroque pioneers like Belsma and Arnoncourt and everything did. But and to rediscover this modernity in every work we play, you know, how daring it is, what's happening here in terms of the modulations, the key, how the composer works with time, with everything, particularly geniuses like Bach, and having worked with new music and with the living composers all the time was very important. And I thought, if the auditor or the spectator or whoever is in the concert hears first another language that was inspired by Bach, that was inspired by a certain piece, and then enters the language of Bach, maybe that will give a little key to hear even a bit more, with a bit more curiosity, all the modernity that is in Bach's language. So, and it was really a wonderful experience. About this, I unfortunately, it's so wonderful, and I would love to spend 3 hours talking to you about this, but at least one more question. As we did the Bach suite with Anteza the Kersmaker for the project Mitten in the Philharmonie, it was in the main hall, and this main hall is the Pierre Boulez salle. Is called the Salle Pierre Boulez. Do you also, I mean, in some places, obviously not in the Gigue we just saw today, but for example, in our fugue of the Fifth Suite, even no matter how modest a fugue it is compared to other fugues by Bach, but the way Bach works with the material and likes to construct on an originally quite simple material and then make it through the work, construct it. I sometimes see a similarity in the way Pierre Boulez is working in his compositions, and I was just practicing Message Esquisse today because I have the possibility to play it day after tomorrow. It will be one of my first concerts, post-confinement concerts. So, and I see some similarity actually there in the way, that serialism is actually not so different from the way Bach was working when he was composing a fugue. Would you agree with that, or do you find it?
Totally. We tried one day to have a week devoted to Bach and Boulez music. And in each concert, to have Bach and Boulez not together, I would say, but existing together, and to try to feel and to understand and to find the connection between the two languages. Of course, one is tonal music and one is atonal music, serial, but free, and post-serial music also. I think the common point is the power of spirit, because in both cases you have a strong concept and a will to do something, either on the paper, I mean the concept of language plus the reality of music. I mean, the role of the musician is also very important in Bach music and in Boulez music, because you have to play it, you have to express it. But the spiritual aspect of their music is strong enough to imagine that music, if you wish, without a player. If you want to read Bach, you can. And you have another contact with his music. Some music, when you read it, I'm not sure you have a so important pleasure. Mm-hmm. The other aspect is a kind of strange improvisation, but a fake improvisation, a memory of improvisation, integration of improvisation, a kind of architectural improvisation. Because in every situation, Bach and Boulez, of course, architecture is very important, but there's some moments you lose control of the shape. Mm-hmm. And you wait for these moments. It can be in a cadenza, before a cadenza, a kind of a surprise. Mm-hmm. And in fact, why do we love so much Bach music? Because you cannot predict, even if you know by heart his music, like you do, you have the feeling that you can change something. Probably there's something, a detail you don't remember, or something. Yes, why not changing? Why not? As you explain, with an E flat or natural. Yes, you can. Both are possible. And you have that feeling. Sometimes that's there's not a unique state for this music. And Boulez, remember, with the work in progress, dreamed also of the same utopia, not to have a fixed music, but a kind of vibration of music, not an established text for music, but a kind of fluidity around your music. You said you were playing Message Esquisse. It's not, you cannot find the best example of a solo cellist extended to some other, like an echo process. It's something like a cell blowing and increased by a writing process. But in an existing and published music by Boulez, you also have the feeling that you can play his music to another instrument. You still have that music. Message Esquisse, I think, can be played by a viola player, like did Christophe Desjardins. Still, we have thoughts to him. And you can play Anthème 2 to viola too. You can play Dialogue on saxophone or clarinet. And like Bach did, you have many transcriptions. That means text, concept, spirit, architecture is so strong that you can change anything, you keep that spirit. Why do we love Bach on accordion music? Why do we love Bach with any instrument? Guimbard, harmonica, it's still something strong. And you never laugh. When you play Wagner on a accordion, it's something, it's comic. You laugh. Not Bach, never. You can have fun, but also always respect. And I feel something in common between Boulez and Bach for that reason. Not something fixed, but something fluid.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Unfortunately, we have to stop here. I've seen on Instagram that the first concert at the Philharmonie are going to take place this week with a soloist from the Orchestre de Paris. Do you want to tell us about this?
Yes. In 2 days, we have Siegfried Idyll with the soloist of Orchestre de Paris, the first concert in the Philharmonie after the Corona time. And the day after, on the 28th of May, with Renaud Capuçon and 22 soloists joining him, they will play Metamorphose by Strauss. It's another symbol, metamorphosis today. We dream of a new world, so we hope that the new world won't be Richard Strauss' new world, but our new world. So the same question I was asking myself, what does Metamorphose can tell us today in our time? So please join us for the internet concerts. Thank you.
Wonderful. And myself, actually, I'm traveling to Paris tomorrow for a Visite Éclair to play Message Esquisse. It will be on Medici TV and with the ensemble Le Balcon, conducted by Maxime Pascal, a wonderful, wonderful group. And you can see it live on Medici TV. On Saturday, 7 o'clock, this coming Saturday, 7 o'clock, the next episode we will enter the world of D minor, with the second suite. That will be a big change. And our guest will be Stephen Isolis. He will be my first cello guest, because so far I wanted that the input of our guests would be from distance, but I thought we have now to bring some of our master cellists to give their view and their opinion and contradict me in this workshop. So, and I'm sure that Stephen will do this. Thank you so much for being there. Keep sending your questions and thoughts, and see you on Saturday. Thank you. Merci, Emmanuel. Bye-bye.